Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video. And in today's video, I'm going to be doing a Patreon requested video, and that is for the Mark Chamberlain versus Jack Rafferty fight. And to date this recording, it is going to be coming out quite close to when the fight's happening. I don't normally do predictions on fight day, but of course, requested on the Patreon, I had to get it done. And so, it is a really good fight. And if you want to request your own, of course, feel free to join the Patreon. I appreciate all the support I've had so far with it, and the link will be in the description. But yeah, to get into this matchup, like I say, it's definitely a good British kind of domestic British contest, which is really gonna, I think, gel into a good contest. And I mean, we'll start talking about Rafferty first. He's someone who has had to work hard to get to this position. He's 26 and 0 now, and you'd think with somebody who was 26 and 0 that they would be perhaps a bit further along in their career. He's in a great position, British and Commonwealth champion. Not many fighters have been able to do that, and it is a massive accolade. The British title is such a prestigious title, but it's, like I say, a position in which perhaps he could have been moved along from. And I feel like this matchup is going to be the matchup where if he goes on to win, then he can actually get moved on to a bit more of a European level, or a fringe world level type of matchup. And again, I think that's about the right time. I think it's definitely going to showcase if he's ready for that in this contest. So I think this is by far the toughest contest of his career, and it's going to be interesting to see, how he goes, because he's somebody who had to kind of, like I say, go the hard way to get to this position, to get the contract with Frank Warren and Queensberry. I mean, he managed to cause what was, I believe, an upset win against Henry Turner. On paper, it maybe wasn't seen as an upset win, but you could tell that Queensberry were trying to push Henry Turner a bit more, and they obviously hadn't signed Jack Rafferty, and they were wanting a tough matchup, but they were in the end expecting Henry Turner to be able to outbox him, and that's what he was doing for a lot of the time. Henry Turner was having a lot of success outboxing him, but then he was just moving too much, and he just couldn't keep up with it. It was, you know, difficult to see that he just, like I say, couldn't handle it. And Rafferty inevitably, when it went into the later rounds, after losing plenty of rounds and being behind on the card, he was able to turn things around by chopping down to the body and wait until Turner tired. And again, like I say, that was kind of all she wrote. And then, of course, he managed to go on to get the knockout. And again, like I say, that managed to get him the contract with Queensberry as well. So that performance really did kind of change his career around for him, and like I say, put himself in a great position. And then he's gone on to have a couple decent matchups since then. Nothing too crazy, nothing of too high level of opposition. Again, kind of just giving opportunities to other contenders for the British title, but no kind of contenders who have really fought at a tremendously high level before. Unlike somebody who, like Chamberlain, who has fought at a high level and obviously has fallen short, but he's now trying to rebuild. But for Rafferty, he's got 6 KOs in a row. Obviously, he's going to have that home advantage for this fight. He's going to be really enjoying this kind of home atmosphere, I'm sure. And he has a big Manchester crowd and a big Manchester fan base. That's why he's main eventing. And again, it's going to probably be a big showcase, for him. And if he can come through it in a homecoming fight, again, like I say, it'll be a very big performance for him. And I think for this fight, if either fighter loses badly, then they could get kind of pushed to the back of the queue and kind of hidden away from the big major Queensberry shows, because Queensberry aren't going to put you on a show if you just come off a loss, and if you've then come on to have another loss. I think if Rafferty loses badly and gets stopped, he's probably going to get pushed, right down the queue quite a lot, and is going to have to work tremendously hard to get himself in a good position again. And maybe that is a bit harsh again with the record that he has of the amount of wins he has. But again, if you look at the wins in which he's had, a lot of them have kind of been a bit padded and stuff like that. So I think it wouldn't take a lot if he did lose this one badly to then get pushed right to the back of the queue and have to really work hard to get into a good position. But then the same with Chamberlain as well. Of course, he's ridden that high of being His Excellency's favourite fighter, and having the big nights at Wembley and in Riyadh and things like that. And obviously he fell short against Josh Padley, which was definitely a surprising defeat. But if he's not able to regain this momentum, he's probably going to be, well, he is definitely the away fighter for this fight. So he's going to have to work hard. And if he loses again, then, all that hype kind of behind him has then dropped off and it's gone. And, this is a real important fight, I believe, for both fighters. Obviously, I've touched upon, Chamberlain is trying to regain that momentum. And that was after, of course, the shock defeat to Josh Padley, which in hindsight could have then led on to Mark Chamberlain going on and getting that world title fight against Shakur Stevenson. That was a huge payday for Padley, and inevitably, he performed. He did, a good account of himself in that fight, Padley, and then he got the matchroom contract. So, there was he's definitely gotten a lot of money as a result of beating Chamberlain. So Chamberlain may have gone down the same route and had the same opportunities and gotten the same amount of money. So it's a harsh sport, boxing, but again, like I say, he's still been given a big chance here. And will he ever be able to make it back to being His Excellency's favourite? I think it would be a very difficult thing to do. I mean, His Excellency watches a tremendous amount of boxing, and he has the WBC Grand Prix and everything like that. So there is a lot of young fighters coming through. So I don't know if he has lost his opportunity to be His Excellency's favourite fighter, which, is a very big accolade, and an accolade in which I'm sure was already getting Chamberlain a decent amount of money. But again, I doubt he'll ever be able to get himself into that position again unless he goes on some, very impressive winning run. Obviously, he is a very good southpaw on his day and is somebody who can box very well. I mean, his best performance has to be the Gavin Gwynn win, and that I think that has aged pretty well. I mean, Gavin Gwynn obviously went on to fight Cameron Wrong and arguably should have won, and now there's been a lot of back and forth between the two of them there. So I think that win is something that it definitely has aged well because Chamberlain pretty much demolished Gwynn in that fight. So again, he's definitely still had the better wins in my opinion in his career than somebody like a Jack Rafferty. But to speak about both fighters a bit more individually, Rafferty as a fighter, he carries power. I mean, they both carry power. That's kind of in the given. You can see that in their resumes. Before the Josh Padley loss, Mark Chamberlain was on a great run of knockouts, and then of course, Rafferty's on his great run of stoppages in more recent times. So they do both carry a good level of power. He stalks you down. He's always walking you down. He's got a nice tight guard to catch shots with, and is mainly keeping that guard up. Unlike Chamberlain, he's got heavy pressure, and when I mean heavy pressure, it's definitely physical, imposing pressure. He forces you to work and controls the center of the ring well. He doesn't get discouraged, which is something which I've seen and is nice. Like I say, he was losing that fight against Turner, but he didn't get discouraged. He just keeps coming, keeps waiting for his moments, doing bit by bit, chopping away slowly, whatever opportunities he can find, and he doesn't get discouraged, unlike, Chamberlain, who was definitely frustrated in that fight against Padley. He ripped to the body well to slow you down. Like I say, he was able to do that in that fight against Turner. Again, I'm going off that fight a lot because that was probably his best performance to date in my opinion. He's willing to trade, which isn't always a good thing, but more often than not, with that imposing physical pressure and power, he is often still able to land quite well when he is trading. He puts his all into his shots and he really is digging his feet into the canvas well, which is why I think he's able to get a lot of stoppages because it is just a cemented position in which he's in, which is, really imposing on top of an opponent and really is overwhelming to be able to deal with. Negatives about him, I think he can be outboxed at a range. Of course, that has been shown, and I think against hand speed, against movers, he can struggle a bit. He can get walked onto shots. I mean, he's got that tight guard, but he still can get walked onto shots, and with the minimal head movements and, dealing with fighters who hit and move, again, he seems to have problems with that. He doesn't cut off the ring, and he is kind of made to follow you around, like I say, stalking you, but he is just following a bit. If he was to cut off the ring better, I think he would be able to have even more success, and I would be even more confident in saying that he would be able to go on to maybe a bit of a higher level. He's got good head movement, and he really can be caught at a jab, and Chamberlain does have a good sharp jab and good sharp straight shots. He's got limited, quite slow reactions and quite slow hand speed, minimal feints and setup. His balance can be a bit of a problem because he can bring his feet quite close together. He can definitely waste quite a lot of shots, and quite often he'll throw a short hook, which is, like I said, a nice short chopping hook, but it's just not far enough. It's not reaching the target, which again can cause problems, can make him miss wildly, and again can leave him open to then counter shots. Chamberlain as a fighter, I think at his best is when he's using the range, and when he uses his range well, he can have a lot of success. When he can maintain that distance, again, he can have a lot of success, and I think he can do that. And if he's doing that against Rafferty, I think he'll be able to have plenty of success in this fight. His straight shots are definitely shots that still carry power as well, and that 1-2 down the pipe is where he's been able to have plenty of success. I mean, he's been able to drop fighters with that 1-2 down the pipe. It does look like a powerful shot, and that was the main shot in which he was still able to land on against Padley and still able to hurt Padley with. He holds his shape well, he's got a good long jab, and I think he's much more accurate than Rafferty. He works a lot of his work off his jab, and I think he's a good finisher as well. I think they're both very good finishers, but Chamberlain, I believe, is a good finisher as well. He's willing to let his hands go if you go onto the ropes. So if Rafferty at any point does start going backwards, he will let his hands go, and I think he's got good hand speed. And again, it's not exceptional, crazy hand speed, but it is good hand speed, and it's better than that of Rafferty. Negatives, I think fighting in close is limited. So if Rafferty is able to rough him up, getting close, then I think he doesn't deal with the physicality that well, Chamberlain, in my opinion. And again, I've said that he may get frustrated again in this contest. I think perhaps he might be coming into this contest with a bit of a different mindset than he was against Padley, because there was a bit of animosity in that build up of that fight, and he was coming in as the favourite. So I think when things weren't going his way and he was getting physically roughed up, he was getting frustrated because he was expecting himself to be able to have a lot more success. So when things weren't going his way, he was getting annoyed. But for this fight, I think I'd like to, see that he's coming in with a mindset which has, learned and developed from the Padley fight, where he's coming in, again, like say, as the away fighter, not just expecting the fight to be a nice clean fight where he can get space and work off and things like that. It probably will be physical at times, but just to keep his cool, not get frustrated. He is not always willing to take too much of a backward step, but that was against Padley. In the Gwyn fight, again, he was fighting good off the back foot as well, so he definitely can do that. He can be caught coming in if he's overextending with his punches, and of course he has been hurt and dropped. He got dropped against Padley. His head movement is limited, and he does definitely drop his guard and leave his guard quite open. So again, that's why he can be quite easy to land on in close, especially. And if your timing is very good, then you can catch him coming in. He does stand tall, and shortening up his shots isn't always what he's best at. Who do I think is going to win? I think that Mark Chamberlain is going to be able to win, but I think he's going to be able to win via unanimous decision. That's, maybe not what the fans are going to want to see. I'm sure, with the knockout ratios that both of these guys have, there's going to be that expectation to go out there and to win via stoppage. But I think Chamberlain can outbox him early to mid rounds, maybe might have a few rougher later rounds, but again, I would like to see that development in his style. I think he definitely is the more skilled fighter out of the two. So, coming in as the away fighter, I would believe that the odds wouldn't be too much not in his favour. I would say it'd probably be pretty even, the odds. But again, I still think he is going to be able to win via unanimous decision and be able to box. And like I say, showcase that boxing skill with that mid-range ability to be better, superior than that of Jet Rafferty. Then who he goes on to fight next, I don't think he's going to go on to fight a major kind of fringe world level guy next, to be honest. I think he will probably, be dotting around at European or at British level a little bit. Of course, he'll be British and Commonwealth champion, so I think there'll be guys there. And there's, of course, a couple good super lightweight guys in the, British scene. Of course, we've got Dalton Smith, Adam Azim, but it seems like they're a bit further along things. So something like a Pierce O'Leary is, with Queensbury, that could be a good fight there to be made. That could be a main event there. Or Sean McCombs fighting Ben Crocker. on a GBM card. So, maybe the winner of that could go on to fight a Chamberlain. That could be a good fight. Or a Fernandez, if they want to move him on to a European level, Fernandez, I think his name's John Fernandez, was meant to fight, I believe it was Dalton Smith or Pierce O'Leary or both. But obviously that didn't happen, and he's still, like say, a high-level European type of guy, which hasn't really had his opportunity just yet. So maybe that could happen as well. Like I say, that probably wouldn't be the most entertaining of matchups, but possibly that could happen. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did indeed like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.